we have an inherent desire to create beauty in our homes. We have a yearning for beauty that's part of our spiritual natures. And I think that it is actually our greatest luxury that we have the opportunity to, and also our inherent birthright, to be able to create temples of our dwelling spaces. And I think if we are able to practice gratitude in creating those spaces, we're able to actually create an energy that is possessed into these spaces that extends outward beyond ourselves and beyond our own environments. And so from that perspective, I've created some tenets for temple building. And I'm going to start with the relationship with your environment. The easiest way to have a relationship with your environment, though one of the most challenging in our culture right now, is to actually be an active part of the building and designing process of your space. Also, to be able to be involved with the maintenance and the care of your hearth. These are ways that you create a relationship. Anything that you love, anything that you imbue with love and intention is going to create an energy around it that is going to feed you and to feed others through it. So you're going to be sort of creating a relationship that has a frequency that extends beyond yourself and beyond your own environment. As much as we can be involved with these processes, the more we will be able to create this culture around ourselves and also for ourselves and for others. It is a luxury to be able to create something not just for ourselves, but that can be shared beyond us. This relationship is also easily manifested through the act of play. We sort of forget how to play in our spaces. When we're kids, we play house. And it's the act of play and of being joyful in our spaces that often gives us the opportunity to remember our natural connection to space. The next tenet is working with organic materials. This too, until really all across the globe, for most of time, until very recent times, there were region-specific recipes for building that were primarily made of the same four materials. They were clay, sand, straw, and water. These materials are readily available, they're accessible to us, they're often a byproduct of food production, so they give us the opportunity to tread very, very lightly on our environments. It's not in our culture anymore to be building with these materials, but they have some characteristics that are worth revisiting to bring back into our environments. So what's wonderful about them is you can sculpt your environment. They have a malleability to them and a breathability and also a naturally detoxifying quality to them, which allows us to sort of create a skin around ourselves, an envelope that rises up from the ground when we need it and then goes back to the earth when we are through with it, once it's served its purpose, ready to be resculpted into something else when we need to create a new structure. This is also a benefit to our societies because we're able to have all members of our community be involved in the building process. When everyone is involved, from children to the elderly, men and women, in sort of an equal collaboration, then all of a sudden we have a different buy-in into our relationship, into our environments. We have a different intention, a different love that's sort of connected to the space that allows us to get a completely different benefit from the spaces that we create for our dwelling. It's worth it to reconsider and to sort of bring back into our awareness these building practices to see if we can't find a way to modernize through our environment these same materials that have been around for a very long time and that are accessible to everyone in order to see if we can create new perspectives, new envelopes that can be created that are much more responsive to the inhabitants. The skin that we're creating around ourselves is naturally detoxifying, brings in a healing element and a healing quality to our environments. They're breathable, and by that, they act as a sacrificial layer for us in our spaces. They also hold the energy of the intention of our space. So whatever we put into that space, whatever goes into it as we build, also becomes part of the envelope that we are sharing outward. If you cannot build from scratch, and that's the issue with a lot of us in an urban environment, then I think that we can start to look at reconstructing our existing buildings with a slightly different elements of using clay in our construction, using natural finishes, using natural plasters and paints, organic pigments, moving away from things that are highly manufactured, and also looking at wet rooms with a completely different perspective, looking at tile-locked finishes, earthen floors, ways to bring the clay in, which has a really amazing ability to heal an environment. I think this begins to connect us with our natural abilities to remember our connection to the earth and to environment, and to soften and provide a heart texture to the space around us. So there are ways to work within the existing structures that we have. Anytime also that we are part of the building process or the redesigning of a process of a space, then we are able to instantly change the frequency and the energy of that space as well. The next tenet is working with color. Color is a really wonderful tool to be able to manipulate your environment. I believe that color is a universal language. It's also the fundamental building blocks of working within the visual design narrative. So if you want to be able to tell a story, there's no easier way to do that than with color. I think it's a language that transcends what we're able to say to each other and has a really, really large, wide-reaching effect on our spaces. So if you're able to sort of discover what your palette is, and I believe that everybody has a certain set of colors and a certain type of palette that has the ability to create a harmonious space for them, to be able to invigorate them, to be able to create energy which is soothing to them, then you're able to use that tool and to bring that instrument into any space that you go into and effectively create a sacred sanctuary around yourself. So taking the time to learn what your palette is gives you an opportunity to really affect the space that you're in, however small that is. The next thing that I really love to do with space that's a little different than the way we tend to acquire objects now is to treasure hunt rather than shop. So I have a belief that it is much more fun and much more playful to sort of play a game of manifestation and attraction with the things that come into your life. It's a journey that you're on, that you're experiencing. If you can move into the space of trusting that whatever items that are meant to be part of your life are on their way to you, then you start to have a different experience of acquiring pieces for your space. And this is a little bit two-part. The way that I tend to do this with my own space is to sort of truly create both the space for something new to come in and the faith that something new will, and to release attachment to what's in the space. So that's part of it also. So if you can kind of begin to understand your palette and have an awareness of what you're trying to do, then you'll recognize instantly the pieces that come into your life that are meant to be part of your life, and you'll let them go when they are no longer needed. It's a little different than just shopping. Way more fun. The next piece of that, which is also just as important, is to be able to release. And there's two parts of releasing, and this is the thing that I think a lot of people get stuck on. You have to be willing to release the attachment that you have to the home itself or the space itself that you're dwelling in, and also the items that are in it. This sort of radical non-clinging to what that you have in your life allows you to really experience the joy of those items being in your life. So if you're trying constantly to make something permanent or long-lasting or to stay in your life forever, then you instantly bring fear into the equation. And that eliminates your ability to experience the joy of whatever the space is holding for you. So releasing attachment to what you have is huge. Also releasing what no longer serves you is very, very big. We tend to keep things because we've invested money or time into the acquisition of those things. And really, really quickly, anything that is no longer serving you can start to become this albatross that you're carrying around that's dead weight, that's impacting the way that you're living in your space, and also the energy that you take back out into the world with you. So if you're able to release things that no longer serve with gratitude, then you're able to make space for the next piece that's supposed to come into your life, or the next space that you're meant to dwell in. The next part of that, oops, sorry, I went too fast, is co-creation. If you're able to start to co-create with others in your environment, whether that's through the building process or the design process or with artisans and craftsmen, then you're able to start to create a true art piece of your space. It's now a living, breathing communication tool to be able to connect with others that has a way of bringing in community into your space and then sharing it back outward with the community. And we create so much more interesting things when we have the constructs of working with others and also of working within spaces that we already have. Then the other part that really is an impactful way of sort of dwelling in our spaces in a different way is being able to share them and to celebrate our senses. It's really important to be able to create personal space for ourselves, but then to also make sure that others can be a part of that. So when you invite people into your home, which can feel very vulnerable at first, it gives you this opportunity to see what it looks like when someone sees the real you, to see the authentic manifestation of what you've created, your highest sort of intention and your highest expression of yourself. This is a really, really amazing gift. This is what people are really looking for when they come to see you. They don't really want to see what you found from West Elm. They absolutely want to see what you found in your journey and in your travels and how you're able to incorporate that into your own story. It's revealing, it's a little bit nerve-wracking at first, but it's an unbelievable joy to connect in that way. Also, what are the sensory sort of expectations or the story that you want to tell on a sensory level in your space? What are the candles that you like? What is the fragrance of your home? What is your soundtrack? What are the foods that you share with others? Those are parts of making sure that you're able to sort of live fully within an environment, and that too becomes an energy that is shared outward. The last sort of and most important tenet, I believe, if you could throw out all the other ones, this is the most important piece, is gratitude. Being able to have gratitude for your space and where you live and how you live in it is probably absolutely the most important tool for being able to live in a very spiritual way, in a way that will heal you and others. It's a mindfulness. It's a tradition that allows you to look at your objects and look at your life in a way with a sort of soft focus lens, sort of a love light. I love the Wabi tradition that celebrates imperfections. I love that if there's a crack in a teacup, they fill it with gold, and then they point that crack at the person that's sipping from it in a tea ceremony. The idea is to celebrate the imperfections of our journey and to understand that that is what gives the actual joy in the experience. That is what gives us connection and meaning in our lives. If you can not look at the imperfections or the parts of your space that you don't love with sort of a frustration, but instead use them to create something new with and to practice tending your hearth with a mindfulness and a gratitude, then that energy is something that you share with the world. So I just want to ask you, instead of living in a space, to instead begin to dwell within a temple that is of your own making. And I think that we can begin to have environments that are much more inspiring to us and to others. Thank you.